Welcome to the report for day 449 of the war in Ukraine. You are listening to The Account. Thank you for joining me. First, another personal note. We will finally get the keys to our new place on Saturday, and that means that we will be moving next week. Sadly, I do not know exactly how things will go and how quickly I will be able to record the next report. For now, I estimate that I will not be around for about 1 week. As always, once everything is over, I will also record reports for the days missed. Thank you for understanding. Today, Ukraine celebrates a holiday and commemorates another one. More on that in a moment. I also have one extra news segment regarding the latest Russian missile attack for you. All other updates are grouped into the usual situation inside Ukraine, the occupied territories, Russia and Belarus, and international developments. Before we start the news though, the flashpoints along the front. Bakhmut. Yevgeny Prigozhin, head of the Wagner PMC, reported that Russian troops abandoned positions near the village of Zakhuivansety, and Ukraine managed to secure a zone about 2 kilometers wide and half a kilometer long. It is unknown if Ukraine managed to enter the village as well, but heavy fighting is still ongoing. Ukrainian units are also making progress in Orikhivo-Vasilivka, along the E40 road, and towards Dubovo-Vasilivka. In the south, Ukrainian troops managed to fight their way almost to Klishchivka, but Russia is launching counterattacks from the western side of the city. Ukrainian units have a huge advantage as they are holding the high ground here. Inside Bakhmut, nothing major has changed today. The 3rd Separate Assault Brigade, as part of the ground forces of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, has reported a breakthrough on the western outskirts of Bakhmut. The defenders advanced 2,000 meters in width and width. Now the updates on today's Commemoration and Celebration. Today marks the day of fighting for the rights of the Crimean Tatar people. The deportation of Crimean Tatars began on May 18, 1944 at 3 a.m. in the morning and lasted until early June. The first and biggest wave of the deportation ended on May 20th. The official reason for the deportation was the secret order of the State Defense Committee number 5859 on Crimean Tatars, dated May 11, 1944, which blamed Crimean Tatars of alleged massive treason and collaboratism during Crimea's occupation by Nazis. It was undoubtedly an act of genocide and ethnocide. Most of those deported were sent to special settlements in Uzbekistan, some of them to gulags. Today is also the 3rd Thursday of May, which marks Ukrainian Vyshyvanka Day. Ukrainian Vyshyvanka, along with Ukrainian Pisanka, is one of the vivid symbols of Ukrainian culture. In addition, wearing an embroidered shirt demonstrates not only its beauty and uniqueness, but also your belonging to the centuries-old Ukrainian cultural tradition. Vyshyvanka Day greetings have been shared by soldiers on social media. And to start the news segment, the updates on the latest Russian missile attack on Ukraine. An air raid warning was issued during the night once again. Russia had launched another mass missile attack. Ukrainian defenders reported 29 out of 30 missiles were intercepted. All Russian missiles targeting Kyiv have been shot down. However, debris still fell in several districts, causing damage. The police shared photos of one missile wreckage. Khmelnytskyi was also targeted during the attack. Explosions were reported and an infrastructure facility was hit. Odessa, meanwhile, was targeted by 6 Caliber and 2 Iskander missiles. 6 missiles were intercepted over the sea, but 2 were shot down over Odessa's industrial area. The falling debris caused damage to industrial infrastructure and killed 1 person and injured 2. A look at all the minor updates out of Ukraine. Ukrainian Minister of Foreign Affairs Dmytro Kuleba has revealed that some countries have agreed to provide Ukraine with Western aircraft as part of a respective coalition. Kuleba did not mention which countries. However, he expressed confidence that the aviation coalition will be formed this year. The chairman of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, Ruslan Stefanchuk, reported that Ukraine will soon receive additional NASAMS after visiting the manufacturing enterprise in Norway. Employees of the Khmelnytskyi National University have debunked Russian fakes about an increase in radiation levels in the city following the attack by Russian forces on the night of May 13th. Previously, Russian propaganda began spreading information on social media and news channels about an increased radiation background in Khmelnytskyi, allegedly caused by an explosion damaging either low-enriched uranium shells or components of a bomb sent to Ukraine. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky may attend the G7 summit in Hiroshima, which will begin on Thursday, if the situation on the battlefield allows it. Andriy Yermak, head of the Ukrainian president's office, has said he met with Chinese Special Representative Li Hui to discuss the current security situation in Ukraine and President Zelensky's peace formula. Meanwhile, Li Hui stated that he met with President Volodymyr Zelensky in Ukraine and told him that there is no panacea for the crisis and ending the war will require all parties to create conditions for ceasefire and peace talks. The US Department of Defense confirmed that the Patriot air defense system in Ukraine was indeed damaged and has already been repaired. Next up, the latest regarding the situation in the occupied territories. In the morning, an explosion occurred on the railway near the city of Bakhmut in the Simferopol district of Crimea, resulting in 5 wagons containing grain being derailed and the movement of trains being suspended. According to Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar, Russian occupation authorities have begun arresting men and training them in order to create a military reserve. Moving on to the news updates from Russia and Belarus. Russia's permanent representative to the UN, Vasily Nebenzya, stated at a meeting of the UN Security Council that Russia reserves the right to take any measures to eliminate threats from Ukraine. Alexander Lukashenko, president of Belarus, has said that all the statements about the Ukrainian counteroffensive are disinformation. Lukashenko also called on Ukraine and Russia to sit down at the negotiation table without any preliminary demands from Kyiv. And to wrap up the news segment, the international developments. The Hungarian foreign minister said that his country won't support the 11th sanctions package against Russia and the €500 million military support tranche for Ukraine unless Kyiv removes the Hungarian OTP bank from its list of international sponsors of war. Currently, the United States does not allow Ukrainian pilots to begin training on F-16 fighter jets in Europe, despite the readiness of several countries to conduct such training. Officials noted that without US permission, Ukrainian pilots can only be familiarized with the technical language and conduct tactical lessons. Test flights on the F-16 are not possible. The UK Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, stated during a press conference that the United Kingdom is not intending to supply Ukraine with Eurofighter Typhoon combat aircraft. The United States, together with its partners, will continue to assess the development of the situation in Ukraine and based on this will decide which combat systems can be provided to the Ukrainian armed forces in the future, Vedant Patel, representative of the US Department of State, said. Norway has provided 1.5 billion Norwegian kroner, about 130 million euros, to support the operations of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development to reinforce energy security in Ukraine. The G7 leaders will discuss the idea of holding an international summit on Ukraine peace when they meet in Japan this week. Moldova is no longer dependent on Russian gas, Moldovan Prime Minister Dorin Recean reported at a security forum in Bucharest. Italy will train Ukrainian recruits at schools and military installations in Italy, as well as take part in EU-Ukraine training programs in Brussels, Poland and Germany. A Ukrainian brigade from 3,000 to 5,000 servicemen has undergone training in Sweden on modern Western equipment. Norway will supply Ukraine with up to 8 multiple launch rocket systems and 3 Arthur artillery location radars, the Norwegian Defense Minister Bjørn Arild Gram said. The US Department of Defense discovered an error in accounting for the cost of weapons that Ukraine received from American warehouses, which was about $3 billion overestimated. US officials are discussing an action plan in case Russia's war in Ukraine turns into a frozen conflict. Options discussed in the White House include a potential territorial demarcation that Ukraine and Russia would agree not to cross without establishing new official borders. The discussions occur amid growing concerns in the Biden administration that Ukraine's expected counteroffensive will not deal a mortal blow to Russia. And now for the intelligence report segment, starting with the UK Ministry of Defense. The Russian state is likely effectively banning senior officials from resigning from their jobs while the special military operation continues. The measures likely extend to at least regional leaders, security officials, and members of the powerful presidential administration. In private, many officials are likely highly skeptical about the war, as well as often experiencing work stress within the dysfunctional wartime apparatus. The ban is likely enforced with strong hints that resignees will face trumped-up criminal charges. As well as being concerned about capability gaps resignees would leave, the authorities are likely also attempting to prevent any impression of defeatism and to bolster a sense of collective responsibility for the war. A look at the latest assessment by the Institute for the Study of War. Russian and Ukrainian officials acknowledged continued limited Ukrainian counterattacks near Bakhmut on May 17th. Ukrainian officials reported that terrain features constrain Ukrainian offensive operations across the Dnipro River in Kherson Oblast. US officials reported that a Patriot air defense system is operational after Russian Ministry of Defense (MOD) claimed that Russian missile strikes on Kyiv destroyed the system on May 16th. The Kremlin reportedly accused 3 hypersonic missile scientists of treason. Select Russian strongmen, Siloviki, are likely attempting to signal to Wagner Group financier Yevgeny Prigozhin that he must cease his political ambitions in Russia. The Russian Siloviki may be intimidating Russian officials affiliated with Prigozhin to discourage their cooperation with Wagner. The Siloviki appear to be unsuccessful in their attempts to scare Prigozhin into obedience. Russian authorities continue to crack down against domestic anti-war dissent in an effort to strengthen domestic repressions and prepare Russian society for a long-term war effort. Russian authorities are likely forcefully integrating Ukrainian Orthodox Church (UOC) dioceses in occupied Zaporizhzhia Oblast as part of a wider religious persecution campaign in occupied Ukraine. And to wrap up the report, the evening update by the General Staff of Ukraine. The enemy continues to focus its main efforts on the Liman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Marinka directions. During the day, 17 combat clashes took place on the specified areas of the front. The hottest battles are being fought for Bakhmut and Marinka. In the Bakhmut direction, the enemy continues to conduct offensive actions. Heavy fighting continues for the city of Bakhmut. The enemy also conducted unsuccessful offensive actions in the direction of the settlement of Ivanivske. In the Avdiivka direction, the enemy carried out offensive actions in the north direction without success. In the Marinka direction, units of the defense forces once again repelled numerous enemy attacks in the area of the city of Marinka. The Russian invaders continue to put pressure on the local population in the temporarily captured territories of the Kherson Oblast, in particular the Herichesk district. Thus, threatening deportation, the occupiers force Ukrainian citizens to obtain Russian passports. Enemy manpower has arrived in some settlements of the Kakhovsky district. Invaders are placed not only in vacant houses, but also in houses where peaceful residents currently live. People who are outraged are threatened with eviction. Recently, the enemy has intensified counterintelligence measures in the temporarily occupied Kherson district. The number of roadblocks has significantly increased on the roads between populated areas. Meticulous checks of vehicles and documents are carried out, and special attention is paid to contents of telephones. And that wraps up the report. Should you be interested in any of the details to any articles mentioned, you can find links to them in the description. If you enjoyed the report and found it informative, please consider sharing it with others and giving me a like. Thank you for tuning in and have a great day. You are listening to The Account. Slava Ukraini.